If a person looks back to the late 1980s and early 1990s, they think of rollerblades, neon, these things, those shoes, and McPizza. Yes, McDonald's pizza. Today we're talking about the history of McDonald's pizza.
McDonald's pizza is freshly baked in our revolutionary ovens in under 5 minutes. Okay, maybe it won't win any downhill medals, but you've never had pizza so good, so fast.
That cardboard box, that logo, that crispy crust is wedged deep within the memories of many of us, especially if you are of a certain age. I remember vividly going to McDonald's with my parents in Vancouver, BC, and opening the little box with the personal pan pizza. But my nostalgia for the super successful, yet non-successful, meal is apparently shared by many. And it's also why I found myself recently in West Virginia. To many of us, we remember it as this, the iconic Pima logo. But pizza at McDonald's actually has a far more complicated past. Let's start here. The late 1970s in Wisconsin. One of McDonald's greatest strengths is its willingness to try, and often fail, at adding new items to their menus. You see, their business model revolves heavily around testing markets, or as they call it, regional testing. In the late 1970s, McDonald's tested the pizza waters, or ovens, I guess, in Wisconsin, along the interstate locations surrounding Milwaukee and Madison, with personal-sized pizzas. By all accounts, this did not take off. For one thing, and this will be a problem with their later pizzas, it took too long. Fast forward to the mid-1980s, McDonald's ruled the roost, dominating the fast food markets around the world. But despite their continuous growth, they struggled during dinner hours. The US restaurant pizza market was worth well over $10 billion at the time. Pizza Hut and Domino's accounted for almost half of all sales.
So McDonald's, knowing their weakness at dinner time, started heavily planning for an evening time rebrand. They envisioned McDonald's as a restaurant past 6 p.m. Chicken, pasta, pizza, checkered tablecloths, and staff delivering the food to your table. As they often do, this was even tried out in numerous US markets. Now this obviously didn't take off, so McDonald's shifted their new efforts fully to pizza.
But attempting to chip away at that $10 to $14 billion pizza industry would prove difficult for many reasons. The introduction of pizza of a high-ish standard would entail pizza ovens, which would involve a full retooling of the kitchen setup at all restaurants. You see, when McDonald's introduces a new sandwich or salad or dessert, typically that is easily retrofitted or altered. The addition of pizza was unlike anything they had ever attempted. But McDonald's primary concern, and what would inevitably bring down the pizza endeavor, was far more basic. Time. McDonald's main selling point, other than, clowns, is that it's quick and consistent. You know what you're gonna get, and you'll get it quickly. So a cooked pizza presented a significant problem for the company. In the late 1980s, McDonald's started rolling out pizza in regional test markets. As you can see, the branding was different at the beginning of the campaign. They started in small markets in Kentucky and Indiana, testing both personal-sized pizzas and a family size. Now, although they moved forward with pizza, the cooking time was ringing alarm bells. The ovens, which had been designed for millions of dollars and over numerous years, were meant to cook the pizza in 5.5 minutes, depending on size. Their ad campaigns? Well, they tried to sell them as being quick.
I remember the pizza vividly. I remember the taste, the packaging, but I also remember standing there and waiting and thinking to myself, this is taking an oddly long time. Often the family-sized pizzas would take over 11 minutes. Mix in the popularity of the pizza and all of a sudden you have a room full of people reconsidering why they call it fast food.
By the early 1990s, the branding had taken on its iconic Pima shape. Now this is where it took on its cultural importance. And this was the era of the Pizza Wars. McDonald's was flooding the airwaves with TV and radio ads. Check this out. Howie Mandel in a Canadian McPizza ad. Epically early 90s for you.
Only 99 cents. This is a great offer. Didn't know I knew magic, did you? Hands are quicker than the eye.
At McDonald's today.
Pizza Hut and Domino's, though, responded, but they took off their oven mitts. They would purchase millions of dollars in TV and radio spots, calling it McFrozen Pizza, and a big McSteak to buy. They were legitimately worried that the behemoth corporation would chip into their market shares.
In Canada, where I am, it was released in a majority of its markets in 1992, and in some isolated cases remained until 1999, although I don't remember them past 1994. By the year 2000, it was officially gone, and that was the end of the McPizza Wait a minute.
Through a loophole and an old franchise agreement, a chap named Greg Mills, who has owned 2 franchises for decades, was allowed to continue selling the iconic pizza. His old franchise agreement giving him more leeway than corporate-run locations and newer licensed ones. So, through this loophole, he just kept on cooking. His 2 locations were in small towns, Pomeroy, Ohio, and Spencer, West Virginia. So I did the only thing reasonable, and I grabbed my dog some coffee and I headed south. I drove from right here in Toronto, south through beautiful Michigan, and finally Ohio and West Virginia. Just before I arrived down to the location, something tragic happened. When the internet found out about the 2 remaining locations, people took note, and perhaps even more importantly, corporate headquarters took note, and put a stop to it, just before my arrival.
Right now I'm in Pomeroy, Ohio, one of the final 2 locations that was still making pizza for McDonald's, unfortunately, till last year.
Well, that didn't work out, so I headed to the next location.
So I'm in Spencer, West Virginia. Beautiful area, lots of hills, and we've spotted the McDonald's. Now, people were making pilgrimages here from all over North America for the last couple years, once people realized that this is one of the only 2 remaining McDonald's with, get a look at it right here. So here it is, with the old look, traditional. Might actually see a big old Ronald McDonald statue, maybe some grimace. Okay, the old arches. Look at this. Dogs. The dogs are ready for some French fries. The old traditional entranceway. The doors. Reminds me of being a kid.
P.S. I filmed this a while ago.
Was it worth it? This lengthy and beautiful ride was well worth it though. Mostly because I was actually heading down to Texas at the time. But the rush, the rush of almost getting to taste it again was something to behold. Now they kept making the pizza for the last 20 some odd years. That said, they used the same oven, but the ingredients were different, the box was different, and the taste, apparently, was different as well. But in reality, there's actually one last McDonald's that is known to serve pizza, other than these 2. But I don't really count it. It's a giant location in Orlando that serves many things, and pizza in a wood-fired oven. Far less charming and nostalgic than the cardboard boxes I remember being delivered to our sports day in grade school.
McDonald's pizza is freshly baked in our revolutionary ovens in under 5 minutes. Okay, maybe it won't win any downhill medals, but you've never had pizza so good, so fast.
So, the facade of the building is the same as it was since the 1970s, 80s. The doors are the same. The big arches are the same. Now we're in a small West Virginia town. Beautiful hills, beautiful area. And no pizza. Now I'm not convinced that the people of Spencer, West Virginia are too excited about people with their dogs, coming here to get coffee and look for pizza. But considering they shut it down a year ago, I assume they're feeling a lot better about everything. So one of the weirder things about this McDonald's location are the cats. There's cats everywhere. There's a kitten right here.